As you can see from the thumbnail, the latest gold medalist in the Victim Olympics, none other than Texas State Rep Jasmine Crockett. As you are about to see, I'm going to share with you a rant of hers. I'm going to go ahead and play this rant, and she is big mad. Okay, like she is big mad, and she is going to start talking about white people, oppressing black people, and she's going to get really bold and flippant in her perpetual condemnation of white America. I have talked about this in a previous video of how I've noticed that there is a certain segment of individuals within the black community who this is all that they have. And the idea is to continue to drag the past into the present and hold white Americans in this perpetual state of condemnation. And as I said on the previous video, they do this. And if you're expecting them to release you of this condemnation, you're just going to be holding your breath for a really long time if you are white. As the days and weeks progress, as we get closer and closer to Donald Trump's inauguration, you're going to be hearing a lot of this. They're going to be just turning it up on high, and so just get used to it. But in this recent grandstand rant of victimization and black supremacy, I'm going to play it, and then we're going to go back and forth, and we're going to talk about it. So take a look.
Yep. Okay, Ms. Crockett.
So many of you know that I practice law, but some of you don't realize that I actually was a business major out of Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee. And the emphasis that I got in my business degree was on finance. And as I traveled the country campaigning this election cycle, one of the things that I talked about was this idea that in finance, we always promote this idea of diversity. If you know anything about a portfolio, the one thing that you want to do is make sure that it's as diverse as possible, because at times certain stocks will perform better than others, and they will exemplify various strengths and weaknesses. And together, a diverse portfolio is usually what any good finance person would promote. They wouldn't promote that you solely invest in vanilla wafers, believing that that is going to be the strongest portfolio, but instead they may want to add some chocolate cake and some Twinkies into the mix to make sure that we have the best portfolio, because there will be different preferences by different people, and again, there will be different strengths. But as I sit here and I think about what we say and what I'm hearing as it relates to diversity when it comes to anything outside of making money, and to be clear, we are losing GDP every time we try to push back on this idea of diversity, because all of us bring something different to the table. But you consistently said over and over the word oppression, and every time that you said it, it was almost as if I was hearing nails on a chalkboard, because it seems like you don't understand the definition of oppression, and I'd ask you to just refer to Google to help you out. Oppression is the prolonged, cruel, or unjust treatment or control. That is the definition of oppression. And so as I sit here as a black woman who practiced civil rights, let me tell you, the reason that my colleagues wanted to make sure you understood the same black history that your side of the aisle wants to delete out of classrooms is because you can then misuse words like oppression. There has been no oppression for the white man in this country.
Woo, child. All right, hold on. Let's, woo. All right, so y'all promise I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna be nice. It's Monday. It's the week of thanks, right? It's Thanksgiving. So I'm gonna be nice, and I'm gonna do my best to be as gracious as I know how. I let that play for a little bit. I'm gonna let her cook, because she just getting started. I'm gonna let her cook. But in this particular portion of the rant, I wanted to take a moment to just highlight a few things. In this rant, we have here where Ms. Crockett, she tries to flex with her pseudo-intellectualism on finance. And the reason why I'm calling it pseudo-intellectualism and why her opening rant unfortunately falls flat on its face is because she's trying to draw this false equivalency between diversity in finance and in a portfolio and diversity of people in an organization. And unfortunately, if we just examine what she's actually saying and think deeply about this, remember, rants like this are designed to disarm you, right? She's talking kind of fast, and on the surface, you're like, oh, well, yes, diversity in portfolios and then diversity in other areas, those two must be the same. No, that is a huge category error. And that does not make sense. And I'm going to explain to you why. The idea that you will automatically have this diversity of skill sets and abilities, if diversity is based on ethnicity alone, and you're thinking if we just diversify and have X many number of blacks and X many number of whites, then it's going to be equal and the diversity is built on something that's credible. That is asinine and absurd. No one person is either skilled or qualified to do a particular job based solely on their ethnicity. And my question is, if that's the case, why don't we apply that same line of reasoning to sports and just let every black boy into the NBA just because he's black? Like, who cares if he's 5'6" and he weighed 270? Right? He's black, right? Let's just let the little roly-poly on in and let him play because he's black. We don't do that. Now, do we? No, we don't do that. That's not how we recruit basketball talent. That's not how we recruit basketball players. That's just interesting to me that whenever you hear the pro-blackity blacks demand a seat at the table, you never hear them demanding a seat at the table in hockey. Right? Like, hockey is as white can be. So my question is, where's the outrage? Where is the outrage? Because basketball is as black can be, but I don't see the bliggities and the pro-blackity blacks crying and demanding that we let more white people into the NBA and then demanding that we put more black people into hockey. We don't do that. We don't do that. We never see that. And the reason why that is because the truth is that this has nothing to do with actual oppression. It just doesn't. The bliggities and the pro-blackity blacks, they only lament over the past. And then they try to drag the past into the present because it's all they have. Now, mind you, they have no point of reference personally for all of this oppression that they're lamenting over. And the reason why I'm saying that, before we get real knee deep into her rant, I did just a little bit of research for this show. And this is why I said Ms. Crockett is so interesting to me, because there's this little known fact is that Jasmine is originally from St. Louis, Missouri. And the point of reference for oppression, it's not like this is her lived experience, because Ms. Crockett attended a private school and then went to a PWI. Like, she wasn't oppressed in the least little bit. However, she spews this foolishness and this racist vitriol with all of this passion because it is profitable for her. And she and the Democrats, actually, they don't want diversity. What they want is to be in control. This is about a thirst for power, using an old and tired narrative that she knows is enough to trigger some of the people some of the time. But you can't fool and trigger all of the people all of the time. And so as long as black people believe that they are oppressed, right, they'll never accept personal responsibility for anything. So when it comes to this discussion on diversity, the context of this discussion is they're discussing all of these DEI initiatives that are proving to be failures. How do we know? All we got to do is look at the VP, the DEI hire of the century, Kamala Harris. This woman has done a piss poor job of being the second in command behind a mentally deficient, not because it's his fault, but because of his age, really bad president. Like, the worst president we could have ever had, we got the worst VP that we could have ever had. But yet, we know for a fact that Kamala is a DEI hire because Joe Biden told us that his VP was going to be a woman and she was going to be black. The problem is she only really met 50% of that quota, but who's paying attention? Because we notice the Democrats completely overlooked the fact that she's not really black. It checked a box in terms of Kamala knows how to cosplay and pretend to be a part of the construct of blackness. Remember, blackness is a construct. It has more to do with your worldview and your mindset than how you physically present yourself. For example, we know that Talcum X, Sean King ain't really black, but he subscribes to the construct of blackness, and this is why he's accepted into the pro-blackity black coalition. Like people like me. Now, I'm a foundational Black American. I was born in this country. My parents were born here, and some of their parents were born here. Some of them came over by way of the Dominican Republic, but eventually, somewhere along the line, there's some Africans who was snatched up, or should I say, sold to some other people, and then brought over here. People like me, I'm the wrong kind of Black. So the point is, it's not about how you present yourself and how much melanin you have. For them, the blackness is the mindset. It's the loathe. It's the liberation. It's the victimhood. You have to put that on. Like, you know how believers, how we put on Christ. Blackness, for these people, you have to put it on. You have to wear it, live it, eat it, breathe it. The more oppressed, the better. If you function in your freedom and you attempt to live as a free American, no, those ain't the kind of blacks that they like. They don't want to hear from people like me. So the question is, how is this woman lamenting over oppression when she is a member of the party that is responsible for the oppression? I'm talking about oppression, and then oppression back then and oppression now. What do I mean? Remember, Democrats are the party of slavery, Jim Crow, the welfare state, and now they are the party of the failing educational system, a crumbling immigration system. Essentially, they want no borders, a horrible economy. They can't balance a budget if it was in their hand and they had handles and straps. They can't do it. Lawlessness, womb assassination, and the rainbow mafia. Those are all oppressive constructs and ideas and policies that are not good for the country. But she's the one that's a member of the party of her oppressor. All the white supremacy she talking about, you're on the side of the oppressor. I'm trying to understand the basis of your outrage, Miss Crockett. I don't get it. Like, you are a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat. And for somehow, some way, even with all of the prestigious secondary education that you received at your little private schools in St. Louis, you guys, she went to the Mary Institute and the St. Louis Country Day School and Rosati Kane, which is an all-girls Catholic high school. You guys, those are, if you look them up, those are some pretty prestigious schools. And I would know. See, the difference between a Jasmine Crockett and myself, I don't hide or shy away from my origin story. I was born and raised in Bronx, New York, in the hood. And due to Democrat oppression, my mother had to advocate for me to leave that failing school district and to get a better education somewhere else. And doing that opened up this other world of opportunity for me to go to a school just like Jasmine Crockett did. One of them really expensive white schools. Yes, I went to one of those. But the difference between that is I looked at that as an opportunity to obtain something that I knew would help me later on in life, give me exposure to a different world and a different culture that I cherish to this day. But the last thing I was doing was crying victimhood. You know why? Because to get there, I had to compete. Like, they don't just let any old body into the school on the basis of just because you look the part. No, if you can't compete, if you can't handle the coursework, and if you can't show your work, then you have to go. Jasmine wouldn't have been able to go to those prestigious schools if she wasn't halfway smart and capacitous. Now, I know she likes to pontificate on the House floor and disseminate, all of her credentials and things like that. I'm no shade to that. She was dry snitching. But it had no value here, because in the next breath, every stride and accomplishment she has made, she snatches it right back so that she can wallow in the victimhood narrative and the oppression narrative. Why? Because it's profitable. And so I want to talk a little bit about why am I bringing up her educational background, right? Like, why am I bringing that up? I'm bringing that up because this chick is sitting in one of the most prestigious seats. Like, you are a sitting congresswoman, right? Like, you know, her district, I think it is a little ghetto Democrat district. But if I wanted to secure power in an area where I knew if I just keep selling these people their own victimhood, I will stay in office for life. I know exactly how I would do it. I would run in a ghetto Democrat stronghold district. And all I would do is talk about how low down white people are and how low down they, how they treating us and they oppressing us and all of the whiteness. Like, I would talk about all of that. I would focus on slavery. Like, my needle would be stuck on slavery and how everything is the white man's fault. But you know what? The reason why you don't see me doing that is because I'm not a liar. Like, I'm not an Obama. I'm not a Kamala Harris. All of them learned Blackness as a construct, and they've all learned how to cosplay in the world in order to rise up to power. Isn't it funny how they can rise to power, right? That they can just somehow achieve. They can achieve whatever it is that their goals are, but they want to sit in the seats in the halls of Congress and lecture white people on how everything is their fault and how they have all the power. The good news about this narrative is that the grip is loosening. But what all of these race hustlers do, or the one thing they all have in common, is they all learn the talking points. And these talking points serve as a trigger, and they know exactly how to make a fool out of black people. That's what you're watching here. Like, and this is a ratchet-tang theater of the worst kind. What Jasmine is doing is following the blueprint, just like so many race hustlers before her, race hustlers and skin traders, like your Al Sharptons and your what's the girl, the bald-headed chick, Ayanna Pressley and Jamal Bowman and the little wannabe, the pastor chick, Cori Bush, her. This is nothing but the new Willie Lynch letter. How to make a slave. You're literally watching a step-by-step treatise on how to make a slave. So let's let her finish this rant.
Me, which white men were dragged out of their homes. You tell me which one of them got dragged all the way across an ocean and told that you are going to go and work. We are going to steal your wives. We are going to rape your wives. That didn't happen. That is oppression.
I mean, I get it, sis. I get it. That is oppression. But all civilizations at some point get conquered. Like, why did you leave out the part that most of the slaves who were rounded up and sold to the Europeans were neighboring tribes that were fighting, and just one was stronger than the other? Like, Africans subdued and conquered other Africans and sold them off in exchange for trinkets and pearls and guns and all sorts of things of value. Why do you leave that part? Like, I think it's pretty atrocious for people who look like other people. Like, y'all look the same, and one tribe is conquering the other tribe. That goes to show you it had nothing to do with whiteness. It had everything to do with who's in power, who's going to be conquered, and who lost. And it just happened to be our turn. It happened to be our turn. And yeah, so the Europeans, they couldn't come into the interior of the country. They would have died of malaria. They wouldn't have made it. They on the coast, picking up some slaves. Yes, we transported over here under some brutal conditions. Yes, some very heinous and wicked things happen to our women and happen to our men. And some people had sense enough to be like, I will die before I be captured and made into a slave. So some of them literally jumped ship. Like literally they jumped off the ship in the middle passage. They were like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to do this. You ain't about to pack me in the bottom of this ship like sardines. Like to me, that's a story of triumph. I'm like, hey, you didn't want to be a slave. You like, I will jump to my death before I let them take me. I don't even know where they taking me. But such is life, right? She talks about this. Why this is relevant in 2024 is beyond me. But the more I thought about it, I said, you know what? I do know why this is relevant. And we're going to talk a little bit about it. I put together this whole concept of the reason why the pro-blackity blacks, that was my new term, pro-blackity blacks and the bliggities. I got bliggities from Blanchard over on Instagram. He is one of the co-hosts on Cutting Through the Culture with Chad and Chuck and the beautiful Mrs. Keisha King. He calls them the bliggities. So I'm about to adopt that into my vernacular. But I'm going to let her cook some more. I just wanted to highlight that whole we was stolen. You're not the first people group to be conquered, and you're not the first people group to be sold into slavery. Now, I would like to mention we were the first people group for the most part that really didn't revolt in mass and fight back. And that part is a shame. I do believe that we allowed cowardice and complacency to kind of settle in generation after generation to where we got to the point where we'd actually rather be with our oppressor than to seek freedom. See, that's the part we don't want to talk about. We don't want to talk about the parts of history, particularly during the Civil War, where slaves were offered their freedom if they were willing to fight for it. And so many of them were like, nah, master, I'm going to stay here with you. I'm going to take care of you and the missus and make sure, you know, everything here is all right. Like there's so many stories of that, but we never get to hear those stories. Why? Because the oppressor narrative is so much more glamorous, and they glean power from it, because as long as you can keep white people today in perpetual condemnation of something that didn't have nothing to do with them, that happened 11 years ago, you can appear or claim a level of superiority over them and impress and impugn guilt to these people when they like, I don't have nothing to be guilty of. But that's just the culture that we live in right now. So let me let her finish.
We didn't ask to be here. We not the same migrants that y'all constantly come up against. We didn't run away from home. We were stolen.
No, not quite. Yes, you were stolen, or mostly conquered and captured by people that looked like you and then sold. She forgets that part, but I just wanted to bring that up.
So yeah, we are going to sit here and be offended when you want to sit here and act like, and don't let it escape you that it is white men on this side of the aisle telling us, people of color on this side of the aisle, that y'all are the ones being oppressed.
I mean, first of all, we need, let's deal with the oppression. We need to deal with the oppression. Let me remind you, Ms. Crockett, you are sitting on the side of the aisle of you're sitting on the side of the oppressor, the party of slavery, the party of Jim Crow, the party of all kinds of subjugation, modern day oppression today, such as not advocating for school choice. Like you love when your constituents are stuck in a failing school. You just want to keep them all collective together and tell them, don't you dare to dream. Don't you dare desire to want something better for yourself. No, you have to stay in this failing school. That's oppressive. I think it's oppressive to sell black women on womb assassination as if it's a good thing, and to demonize the idea of, wanting to be a wife and a mom, like, I don't know, family values. I mean, it's kind of under liberal policies, it's real difficult to function in your freedom. It's oppressive for you to champion gun control when I need my gun. Like, I need Jesus in my heart and I need my 9 on my hip, because Taquayshawn don't give a darn about nobody else but himself. So for me to protect myself from Taquayshawn, I got to have my gun. But you don't want me to have my gun. Because you love the government being daddy, and daddy just being in control of everything and everyone. You are on the side of big government. You don't like when people function in their freedom. But she wants to lecture these white men in the halls of Congress. And the reason why she does this and she gets away with this, and I blame white America for this. Y'all allowed this. Cowardice allowed these black orangutans to get on these little high horses and threaten to call you racist. And so because you don't want to be called a racist, you just let them cook like this. And then you internalize the white guilt, and then to overcompensate, you know you ain't guilty, but then to overcompensate for it, you give them an inch and then they take them out. I already told you, I would look these people in the eye and be like, I will not live in perpetual condemnation for something I ain't had nothing to do with. And I don't know how long you're going to be singing this song. But the fat lady has sung, the band has packed up, everybody's going home, and you're just here bouncing up and down in this seat all by yourself. And your grip is loosening. And the reason why we know the grip is loosening, because America overwhelmingly is voting against all this DEI foolishness. We are tired. It's so played out, but they will go down with the ship because they have to keep the narrative going. They've been told by their overlords, we're losing too many of the black vote. So you better turn this up into high gear now, because we can't have too many more of these black folks waking up and realizing that y'all don't care nothing about them. We can't have that. So this is why she is given the stage in order for her to do scene 1 and then scene 2, and then she ends on a high note, and then it's take a bow, end scene. Like, yes, this is why you seeing all this. This is theater. This is really theater. But let's let her finish.
That y'all are the ones that are being harmed. That's not the definition of oppression. You tell me the prolonged, cruel, or unjust treatment that you've had, and we can have a conversation.
You can start with Exodus.
The final thing that I will say.
So the man says you can start with Exodus. So basically, I think he mentioned that to prove the point that, Jews were the subject of unjust, cruel treatment in Exodus. The Babylonian exile. I mean, you got the Jews in Nazi Germany. You have blacks then, blacks today. But the blacks today, the oppression that we're under, it's actually under Jerome Crow rule. Think about it. If you live in a blue city or in a Democrat stronghold, 9 times out of 10, the people who have been elected to serve as your overlord look just like you. And we don't know what the heck they be doing in Congress, but your neighborhoods are less safer. Your infrastructure is crumbling. The schools are trash. Like, it's just bad. It is just bad. But yet they always want to blame some evil, rich white folk. And I'm like, I ain't seen none of these evil, rich white people. Like, where are they? Because they ain't in District 4. They're Hank Johnson's district. It ain't nothing but a bunch of black folks over there. It's a few little whites left, not many. I probably can count them all. But no, there's nobody in charge but y'all. Nobody in charge but y'all. I'm going to I just think it's so interesting that she sits in one of the most prestigious positions in the nation. And she is sitting here attempting to hold modern American politicians who happen to be white in contempt for the past, as if it's holding her back or has held anyone else back today. We don't know where that's happening, but she keeps saying it. And I find it interesting, she flexed, mentioned her education, and y'all, her education was white. I'm talking about like lily white. Both high school, college. She went to Rhodes College, PWI. I mean, to be fair, there's nothing wrong with any of that. My issue is that she has no problem navigating in the world of whiteness and excelling in it, but somehow she can boast about oppression and victimization or be upset that these white men are saying, listen, these DEI practices are discriminatory. They're discriminatory because what they do is they're trying to fight racism by being more racist. Like, how does that work? And this is America. If you can't figure out how to gain or achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve on the basis of your own merit, something is wrong with you. Because it's the freest country of the world that is a wealth of opportunities that are just open to you if you are willing to work hard and just go do the darn thing. And I'm talking about even if you start at the bottom and are dirt poor. It's crazy to me how she's able to excel. She can excel, but somehow she can boast about oppression and victimization. And I wonder, like I said, if she would have this same kind of energy. If I or another conservative black woman tried to unseat her orangutan behind. Like if we just ran against her, just head to head, would she be still talking about, would she still be singing this or she'd be singing a different tune? Because here's the truth. This is not about diversity. It's not. What the Democrats want is homogeneity. They want sameness. They want homogeneity of thought. They only want certain kinds of diversity, and it has to be diversity that they approve. So you can't be a conservative. You can't do that. You can't have conservative thoughts. You definitely can't have a faith-based mindset. It's only the kinds of diversity that's approved by them that they allow. Because she doesn't believe in conservative thought and ideas like mine. She doesn't think that my voice should be heard because conservatism to her is dangerous. In that world, it is dangerous. It's too much. It's too much like functioning in your freedom. She can't have that. No. Function in your freedom. No, we that's not allowed. Democrats cannot stand free thinking, independent minded Americans of any color, but especially black ones. And the reason why Jasmine does this is because she knows that there is a template. There is a template for maintaining the black vote. And she knows exactly how to put on all that yes queen energy. She knows that all she has to do is to do this and grandstand like this to keep the money flowing. Why? Progressives are the only ones throwing money at the Democrat Party right now. After the scam of Kamala Harris, most of the donors have dried up. So it's only basically, really diehard progressives and the rainbow cult adherents that are giving money to the Democrat Party. So to keep the money flowing for her reelection, because she got to stay on code, because it's showing the poor blacks in her district that are donating to keep her in office. So she has to parrot these talking points. She absolutely has to be on board with the LGBT agenda. She's absolutely a member of the Equality Caucus. Like, you go check all the committees that she's on and the coalitions that she's a part of. You'll be like, what the heck is this? Like, she is far left progressive as they come. Mind you, we just saw in this last election that all this gay mess, it is going to run the Democrat Party in the ground. But for now, they don't care because this is the grift. Who cares that all of that foolishness is detrimental to her district? She needs that far left progressive money. And as long as she needs that far left progressive money, she is going to continue to pontificate like this and show the hell out on the Congress floor. That's what she's going to do. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Standard of Truth podcast. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to check out the Standard Home and Living lifestyle store at standardhomeandliving.com. We've got everything from book studies, journals, and even podcast merch, so you can take a piece of this conversation with you wherever you go. And of course, be sure to follow me on Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok for more updates, behind the scenes, and daily insights. You can also stay connected at thestandardofTruthpodcast.com, where you'll find all the latest news and events, including live events coming to a town near you. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Until next time, keep standing firm in the truth. Grace and peace.